Amplify this. Here is another blast, another hand of the week I call doing Monte Carlo in style. I have never, ever missed my turkey dinner on Thanksgiving. To miss it would be downright unpatriotic. But this year I was in Monte Carlo playing a 7-player affair with a $120,000 buy-in that went out live to over 110 million households worldwide on Fox Sports Net and Sky Sports. Of course, Thanksgiving is purely an American holiday, so after searching high and low, I discovered that there was no turkey, no stuffing, no cranberries, and no mashed potatoes to be had anywhere in Monaco. The tournament was held behind closed doors in the classic, spectacular Monte Carlo Casino. The field was world-class, too. Gus Hansen, Phil Ivey, David Devilfish Elliott, Chris Jesus Ferguson, John Juanda, Mike the Mouth Matisow, and me. The tournament began at midnight in Monte Carlo, which was 6 p.m. on the East Coast. It was scheduled to last 4 hours, and we knew that it wouldn't go past that because the blinds were being carefully monitored and controlled, and they didn't want to pay for that extra television time. All 7 of the field came to the table in fine form. Ivy had won the Monte Carlo Millions, $1 million for first the night before. Juanda won the Second Chance tournament the night before. Hansen had finished in the Final Four of another event held the week before, the Poker Superstars, and Matisow had won 2 big events for $1.5 million in the weeks just prior. Ferguson had won a big tournament within the last month, Devilfish had scooped up a big event in Europe, and I had just finished high in 2 events in the preceding month, including the Tournament of Champions too. So we all expected some great poker. Devilfish came out firing. He was raising and re-raising, ramming and jamming seemingly every hand, and accumulated a nice chip lead of around 300,000 or so. By the way, we had all started with 143,000. I was off to a nice start as well, making a straight flush one hand with my Jack-9 of spades and a board of ace of spades, 10 of spades, 7 of spades, 8 of spades, 4 of hearts. Some 90 minutes into the game, I had roughly 175,000 and was feeling pretty good about my play when the following hand came up. The blinds were 3,000, 6,000 with a $500 ante when Devilfish made it 20,000 to go in late position, one off the button. I was in the small blind with pocket tens and couldn't decide what to do. Devilfish was the only one who had me covered, and third place was $120,000, which amounted to having your buy-in handed back to you. I had a bad feeling about the hand, but that really doesn't mean much. Finally, I decided to just call. I announced I check before the flop cards were even turned up. The flop came down Queen 8-4 and Devilfish bet out 30,000. At this point, I was set up to go broke. Only a queen or pocket queen, kings or aces could beat me. And Howard, the professor letterer, who was announcing the hand from the truck, predicted that I would go broke. Letterer, of course, knew what I didn't, because along with the live audience, he could see all of our hole cards, and he could see that Devilfish had queen of clubs, deuce of clubs. But instead of going broke, I decided to fold, saying to Devilfish, "I think you have pocket kings." Saying that made me look bad in front of 110 million people, but I was right that he had me beat, and I did make a world-class fold. As you know, Devilfish did have queens, his queen deuce plus the queen on board, and I folded, saving my chips to fight another day. I'm proud of this fold, but not of the statement. Of course, trying to get under my skin, Devilfish took the opportunity to show just a deuce and to laugh at my pocket king statement. I then said, "You probably have a queen with that deuce." Then he said, "No. Would I raise with queen deuce?" Yes. How did I decide to fold in the flop? When Devilfish bet the 30,000 on the flop, I read extreme strength, and it turned out, fortunately, that I was right. After all, I didn't make it this far in poker without trusting my reads. Perhaps it was the way he casually, but quite quickly, lobbed the chips into the pot. The great players that were there that night all believe I should have re-raised all in before the flop with my tens. And it's certainly true that if I had gone all in, then I would have won that pot. But if Devilfish hadn't hit that queen, I believe he would have bluffed at the pot anyway, enabling me to win a lot more money that hand. You got to take the bad with the good, son. Now let's continue with another interesting hand that came up. This one between the 2000 world champion of poker, Chris Jesus Ferguson, and me, when the blinds were 5,000, 10,000, and the ante was 2,000 a player. Everyone else folded to me, and I looked down at King of Hearts, Jack of Hearts on the button. With 97,000 left and showing a pretty conservative playing style, I had a decision to make. Of course I would raise it up, but how high should I go? I could set it anywhere from 30,000 to 97,000 to go, and I had a decent hand, one that I would have been quite happy to simply win the blinds and antes with. I wasn't Matiso, who had gone broke pushing all in with 7-6 offsuit 30 minutes earlier, and the guys knew that from years of watching my relatively conservative play. If I were to put in my whole stack, I would be sending a message that I had a pretty good hand. I'd also be making it very tough for anyone to call with a small pocket pair or an ace-X type hand like ace of spades, 5 of spades, X being a weak kicker. Whereas if I made it just 30,000 to go, someone could well move in all in on me, raising my last 67,000 with his small pair or ace weak kicker type hand. Finally, I opted to move all in. Ivy in the small blind folded instantly. And now Ferguson went into the tank for a while. I was thinking that he had ace-jack and that he would have to call me with that hand. So I was rooting for him to fold. After a full minute, Ferguson called me with ace of spades, 5 of spades, and the race was on. In fact, he was about a 60-40 favorite, maybe a little bit less than that, maybe 55-45. When an 8-high board came, Ferguson won the pot and busted me in 6th place out of 7. By the way, I thought Ferguson to be roughly a 54% favorite to win the pot before the flop with his ace-5 of spades, and that's just about right. Now, what of Ferguson's call here? He had only 130,000 total, and he was committing well over 70% of his chips with the relatively weak ace of spades, 5 of spades. I said live on air that I didn't like his call because I believe the great player shouldn't risk too many chips making weak calls like this one. If I had had merely ace-7 high, then he would have been more than a 2-to-1 underdog. But this was no average field, and perhaps his call was right, since getting any kind of edge over any of us was going to be a hard thing to do. An interesting question now arises. If I had shown Ferguson my king of hearts, jack of hearts, would his call with the ace of spades, 5 of spades still have been the right move? In most tournaments, for over 70% of your chips, I would say no. After all, why shouldn't a champion like Ferguson take advantage of the fact he's a great player and win a lot of chips risk-free by outplaying the other players at the table? Or he could wait until he's a much bigger favorite than 55%. But in this case, with the field as tough as it was, how bad could his call really be? He was, after all, a favorite to win the hand. And for that matter, was I wrong to go all in? I stand by that play. The rest of the story is that Ivy went on to win that title, which was especially impressive considering that he also won the Monte Carlo Millions the night before. That made $1.6 million for Ivy in 2 days. Not too bad. You think he likes Monte Carlo? I amplify. Do you?